Hey, happy Monday. Welcome to the Daily Bread Drive Through. I just want to begin by saying, even as I was just praying before starting this, I hope you guys are keeping the momentum of excitement going. We see the momentum of viewing growing, but I hope the excitement is growing because what we're doing here is, again, it's not just helping the time go by. It's not just me just wanting to create a nice archive of great teachings, if you will, because obviously truth is great. So anything revolving around truth, if it's sticking to the truth, will be great teaching. But it's designed so we are equipped. Remember, our motto here is not just surviving during this coronavirus culture, but thriving. I've actually been encouraging people from Antioch to watch, rewatch, and to take notes. Even myself, I pull out notebooks. You're going to see me just always reading from notebooks. Some of these, this one here, for instance, this is, maybe 7, 8 years old. So one thing about notes is you can go back to them, you can add to them. Remember this, the purpose of this teaching is also to stir the waters to get you during this information age. And as you're learning how to sift out, the meat from the fat, the wheat from the chaff, that you would delve in deeper and do your own research and begin your own journey, continue your own journey, because you've already begun the journey if you're tuning in, but that you would continue the journey. We've been given a great mind to do more than a mass music playlist, great documentaries, and great movies, but actually to go deeper in knowing what we believe and why we believe what we believe. So this is really kind of a part two for what I jumped in last week. Last week on Friday, we took a look at absolute truth versus relativism. And basically, we used as our platform the conversation between Jesus and the Roman governor Pilate when Christ is on trial right before the crucifixion. But as you see the nature of the conversation, you realize that it's not Christ who's on trial. It's actually Pilate who is on trial. That is God, his creator, speaking to him. Though disfigured because he'd already begun being beaten illegally by the temple police all through the night, but yet in meekness, because meekness is not weakness. Meekness is strength under control. 72,000 angels waiting on standby, but Christ came to drink the cup of wrath that we deserve as a lamb to the slaughter, the innocent substitute who died in our place. That's the gospel. That's the good news. But as they're talking, he's speaking with Pilate, and Pilate's really on trial because Christ is causing him to see, what do you, in a world of absolute truth, what is your conclusion on who I am? Never mind you judging me according to what the mob is saying or anyone else. So in that conversation, and we looked at on Friday, basically, he says to Jesus, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus says in John 18, verse 34, is this what you're saying of your own conclusion, or did others tell you this? Look at how our Lord just deals in with each individual. Who do you say that I am? Never mind the trial, never mind what others are saying. Pilate answers, am I a Jew? Your own nation and your whole chief priests have delivered you. What have you done? Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this world. If it were of this world, my servants would fight for me right now. They'd be beating the door down right now, but my kingdom is not of this world. Pilate therefore says to him, well, are you a king then? Jesus says, you say that I am a king, and I've come into this world and for this purpose, so that those that are of the truth, those who are hungering for truth, those who desire truth, those who will acknowledge truth when it comes before them will hear my voice. Pilate then takes the backdoor route and says, what is truth? Clearly revealing his worldview, and he walks away. What that is that's relativism. Seems like a fitting answer. Seems in our world of live and let live, right? Which is also a form of relativism. We'll get to that in a minute. When Pilate says, what is truth, and walks away, here's this polished, no doubt educated Roman governor who says, what is truth, and walks away. But Proverbs 18:17 says, the first one to plead their cause seems right until their neighbor comes and examines them. For Pilate to say, as this educated, polished politician, what is truth, seems right until we come and examine him. You see, that is a worldview. Everyone has a worldview. And let me read a great definition, on a worldview. A worldview is a framework or a set of fundamental beliefs through which we view the world and our calling and purpose in it. A worldview is a framework or a set of fundamental beliefs through which we view the world and our calling and our purpose in it. This vision need not be fully articulated. It may be so internalized that it's not even questioned. It may not even be explicitly developed into a systematic conception of life. It may not be deepened into a philosophy. It may not even be codified. But it is, everyone has a set of lenses through which they perceive reality. Everyone has a worldview. And as the definition shared, you can operate in your worldview without even being able to really articulate it, call it even a certain philosophy, or even be able to write it down in a creedal form. Creedal comes from the Latin word credo, I believe. You may not even be able to say what you believe. Everyone has a worldview. When Pilate says to him, what is truth? That is a worldview. The lens through which he's perceiving reality and his place and purpose in it is that really truth is in the eyes of the beholder. So everyone has a worldview, but the question is our worldview right? Is our worldview according to truth? Let me give a definition of truth. Truth, and you can apply this to all universal application. Truth is, and we're going to give 3 definitions. Truth is that which corresponds to the facts. Period. Truth is that which matches its object. 3, truth is that which tells it like it is. So it's that which corresponds to the facts, that which matches its object, that which tells it like it is. Falsehood, conversely, would be the opposite. Falsehood is that which does not correspond to the facts. Falsehood is that which does not match its object. Falsehood is that which does not tell it like it is. So as we're unpacking absolute truth and relativism, and matter of fact, it'd be fitting even now just to give a definition of relativism, because you see, truth is absolute, and we're going to get into 8 facts about truth, the truth about truth, 8 truths about truth, if you will. And that's the world we live in. But we do have a worldview that is nothing new under the sun, but is seemingly growing in this information age of everyone accruing their own knowledge, coming to their own conclusions. But what we have to look at is, while most people will ascribe to absolute truth when it comes to their medical prescriptions, when it comes to safety regulations, when it comes to money matters, when it comes to even court proceedings, right? Nobody would want to go in a courtroom and hear it said, do you swear to tell the whole, do you swear to tell the whole relative, and nothing but what's relative to you? No, we want to hear in the courtroom, do you swear to tell the absolute truth, the whole absolute truth, and nothing but the truth? Everyone can pretty much agree that when it comes to those matters, we want absolute truth. But really where you see relativism is when it comes to individual and especially moral issues and cultural. So here's a definition of relativism. It's the denial of any absolute or objective standards. Everything is up for discussion according to what you feel and what I feel. And that actually brings in what's called emotivism. Most people operate in an objective absolute truth until it really comes down to issues of morality and issues of spirituality, and namely issues of God. Emotivism, really, because really what we're talking about is ethics, right? Ethics is a branch of philosophy that concerns itself with right and wrong. I know I'm jumping around a bit, but you know that Daily Bread drive-thru's gotta be popping, right? Ethics, let me just back up, Aaron, back up. All right. Relativism, the denial of any absolute or objective standards, especially in ethics. Ethical relativists can be individual relativists who hold that what is morally right is relative to the beliefs or emotions of the individual. There can be cultural relativists even who say that what is morally right comes down to a culture. So what we tend to see is relativism when it comes to individual rights and relativism when it comes to culture. Hey, Who are we to go as missionaries to that culture, claiming that we can have truth? We need to respect what that culture holds as true. That's cultural relativism, which we see today, especially as we see this global world emerging more. And then within cultural relativism, which is a very big thing today, we then see individual relativism. Hey, I'm not into culture, but I'm into what I feel. And at the end of the day, isn't that what every person does? Again, when it comes to ethics, it is that branch of philosophy that concerns itself with right and wrong. So these are not bad words. When we talk about ethics, when we talk about logic, these are God-given disciplines. When he made us in his image and likeness as thinking creatures, he's given us these implements. These were not invented. The laws of logic, which we're going to get to if time allows, they were not invented. They were discovered. God gave us these. We're to use ethics. We're to use logic to bring us to the truth. And again, when it comes down to cultural relativism, and they say, hey, don't go preaching Jesus and sharing the love of God with another culture, because what is true to their culture is true to their culture. But remember, truth is, what do we say again? That which corresponds to the facts, not that which corresponds to the culture. That which corresponds to the facts, that which matches its object, that which tells it like it is. So the question of the day is truth personal, experiential, and relative, meaning subject to each person, or subjective, or is truth absolute? Really, we're going to get into logic now. We're going to get into 8 truths about truth. But, when it comes to, and this is what I tend to see, because I used to be the same way. Most people are thinking creatures. They love applying just what is rational and what is logical, really, until it comes up with matters of God. At that point, emotivism tends to creep in. And emotivism is this: it's an ethical theory that regards ethical and value judgments as expressions of feeling or attitude. How many people have you seen that are just sharp thinkers in every category, but then when it comes to issues of God, it begins with, well, I think, well, I feel, it seems to me. But see, that's no longer truth talk. When someone's doing math, they're seeking truth. When someone's working with the laws of science, they're seeking truth, right? But all of a sudden, when it comes to the issues of God and spirituality, you start to hear a lot of I think, I feel. That's emotivism, right? Even my son's, one of his teachers in 8th grade, my son the other day, or not too long ago, said, thank God. His teacher heard my son say that in regards to, I guess, some blessing my son was counting at the moment. And the teacher said, don't thank God, thank me. God's not here. Now, this is no knock against that teacher, but if he's big boy enough to say that to my son, I'm big boy enough to invite him to the discussion of absolute truth, relativism, ethics, and emotivism. At that point, that's emotivism. He's saying, and he's teaching my son facts, scientific principles, or what have you. But at that moment, he went into emotivism, what he feels. Because if he truly were applying the same logic, he would say, does what I'm saying, truth, does it correspond to the facts? Does it match its object? Does it really tell it like it is? Or is it just am I just telling how I feel? So we got a few minutes left. Why don't we, and just take a breath at this point, because, we're going to plow just a little bit more. Why don't we get into 8 truths about truth? Can we do that? 8 truths about truth. Number 1, all truth claims are absolute, narrow, and exclusive. All truth claims are absolute, narrow, and exclusive. Many oppose Christianity because they say it's narrow and it's exclusive. But the reality is that all truth claims are absolute, narrow, and exclusive. To say 2 + 2 is 4, that is absolute. That is narrow. Of all the other numbers, it can only be 4. It's also exclusive. It excludes a seemingly infinite amount of numbers. To say that all religions lead to God, to say that pluralism, all beliefs are the same, even that, it seems more open-minded, but even that is an absolute statement, because you're saying this is what it is, and it's not the opposite, right? The law of identity, which we can get into with Aristotle in a moment, one of the 3 laws of logic, it's absolute, right? It's narrow, because it's saying that a religion that says, and a belief system or a worldview that says that it is the way, or whose founder, namely Christ, says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, saying all religions lead to God seems less narrow than to hear Christ say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. John 14:6. It seems more open-minded, but it's still narrow because it is excluding the statement of there being one way, namely Christ, who came down, born of a virgin, fulfilled all the messianic prophecies, died as he said, was raised from the dead on the third day as he said, and said that all power is given unto him. So both are claims that are exclusive. And interestingly, belief systems of the world are narrow. Worldviews are narrow, exclusive. If you think about Islam, Islam will say to you that there's no other way through the way of Islam, right? And Muhammad was very big on even enforcing that through violence. That's a truth claim, but we have to see, does any truth claim, one, match its object, line up with the facts or correspond with the facts, or tell it like it is? Judaism will say the same thing through Yahweh. Even what seems even super open-minded, like New Age, Hinduism or Buddhism, when it says, that, if you say that there's only one way, that means you're condemning others, and in condemning others, that's bad karma, and karma will find you and work it out, and this is good karma. Even that is an exclusive claim. So let's put away this thing that says that Christians and those with a biblical worldview are bigoted, narrow, and exclusive, and narrow. All claims out there are the same way. So one, all truth claims are absolute, narrow, and exclusive, but we need to see, how do you determine of a world full of truth claims? You have to say, which is that which corresponds to the facts? Which is that which matches its object? Which is that that tells it like it is? Because if it does not correspond to the facts, if it does not match its object, if it does not tell it like it is, then it is falsehood. So one, all truth claims are absolute, narrow, and exclusive. Two, truth is discovered, not invented. Truth is discovered, not invented. I remember before I even came to Christ, I ascribed to the Medu Neter, ancient Egyptian polytheistic, worldview that really worshipped multiple gods, multiple deities, hence polytheistic, many gods. That was my worldview. And I even believed that Egypt, ancient Egypt, was the cradle of all civilization and knowledge. Everything began in Egypt. And that you had Osiris, Isis, and Horus that were really the first Trinity, and that therefore the Christian Trinity was stolen from the ancient Egyptian Trinity. But no. The reality is this. Truth is discovered, not invented. People say that, oh man, our belief in the Trinity came from ancient Egypt. Well, anyone that knows their scriptures knows that the Trinity is latent all the way through the Old Testament. We just see the Trinity revealed for the first time at the baptism of Jesus, meaning in plain sight, where you have Jesus, the second person of the Trinity, going down into the water, the third person of the Blessed Trinity, the Holy Spirit, coming upon him, and the Father saying, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. But all the way back in the beginning, God, Elohim, not El singular, Elohim plural. The Trinity goes all the way back. But again, truth is discovered, not invented. The Trinity is something that we see through Scripture, not something that we invented or that we took from the Egyptians. And even for the Egyptian claim to say that, we have to then say, is it that which corresponds to the facts? Is it that which matches its object? Is it that which tells it like it is? Can I give you a quote just to write down? And we're about to wrap this up today. Christianity is the only belief system in the world that gives you evidence in history to authenticate its truthfulness. Christianity is the only belief system in the world that gives you evidence in history to authenticate its truthfulness. Think about that. The Buddhist worldview of reincarnation Has there ever been any animal or anything that's come back to authenticate that? Christ rose from the dead for 40 days, ate food, allowed himself to be handled. Over 500 people saw him after he was risen, and that it wasn't a ghost or apparition, but bodily form. That is historically affirmed. Has reincarnation ever been historically affirmed? Have any of the words of any of the world's leading religions been historically affirmed? And of course, Judaism, if truly sticking to the scriptures and not just Jewish tradition, all points to Christ. That's why we say the Judeo-Christian, because Christianity did not begin. It's like Paul says in Acts 26, verse 26, when he's talking to Agrippa, he says, this thing was not done in a corner. This is not some little new thing that sprung out of nowhere. This goes all the way back to Genesis 1:1. It is everything in fulfillment. So, to wrap this up, all truth claims are absolute, narrow, and exclusive. 2, truth is discovered, not invented. Galileo did not invent gravity, he discovered it. Aristotle did not invent the 3 laws of logic, he discovered it. One's belief, number 3, one's belief cannot change a fact, no matter how sincerely it is held. A lot of people believe that as long as you're sincere in what you believe, you will make it to heaven. However, such a view is unsubstantiated on the grounds of establishing truth. Basically, it has to what? Correspond with the facts. It has to match its object. It has to tell it like it is. And like we said, no matter how sincere you are in wanting 2 + 2 to be 5, it remains false. 4, truth transcends culture. 2 + 2 = 4 is the same whether you are in Brooklyn, whether you are in Moscow, whether you are in Peking, or whether you are on Mars. Truth transcends culture. 5, being raised in a different culture doesn't necessarily make their beliefs true. The greatest example of that would be the famous Nuremberg trials, where 24 of the Nazi leaders were put on trial for the atrocity of killing some 12 million people in the Holocaust. Hitler's right-hand guy was a man by the name of Adolf Eichmann. He tried that. He tried cultural relativism in the court of law. He tried to say, I was raised in Nazism. From a youth, I was geared in Nazism. Therefore, to kill the non-Nazi was my truth. It's all I knew. You can't hold me accountable for that. Well, the court of law basically knocked that down and said that truth is universal. No matter what your culture, no matter what cultural relativism you're ascribing to, absolute truth defines truth, not cultural relativism. Even though you're raised in Nazism, even though someone's raised in atheism, even though someone's raised in Buddhism, even though someone's raised in the occult, that does not make it true. So number 5, being raised in a different culture doesn't necessarily make their beliefs true. So basically, logic did not accept Adolf Eichmann's plea, and it was deemed that truth transcends culture. And that was the conclusion in the court of law at the famous Nuremberg trials. Beliefs are only truth when they correspond with the facts, tell it like it is, right? And then our third one is match its object. Number 6, a bad attitude about truth does not make it wrong. A hypocritical Christian does not make Christianity wrong. An awesome, loving, sacrificing atheist does not make atheism true. A bad attitude about truth does not make it error. Truth about truth is what makes it correct. The idea of objective truth cannot be denied, because in saying all truths are relative and there is no absolute objective truth, you just affirmed it, because that is an absolute objective statement. So if someone says, there is no absolute truth, you say, is that the absolute truth? Because you just, in denying it, you just affirmed it. 8, contrary beliefs are possible, but contrary truths are not possible. What people will try to say is that all religions of the world are superficially different, but fundamentally the same. Well, the reality is that they're fundamentally very much different and only superficially the same. Oh, you believe in one God monotheism, you believe in one God monotheism, you believe in one God monotheism. So basically, they're only superficially different, but fundamentally it's all the same. No, it's the exact opposite. They are only superficially similar. They are fundamentally different. Anyway, look, let's get out of here. Tomorrow I'm wavering between talking about Aristotle's 3 laws of logic, if you guys would like to see that, or just doing a message on fear. The days we're in, I thought it'd be timely just to have a great discussion on fear. So based on what people say, we'll see where this can go. Like and share with others. We'll be unpacking this more and more. Play your part, as a thinker that enjoys helping others think, and like and share this. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless you. Salud.